This is us, first thing in the morning. And by first thing in the morning, I mean 10 a.m. Okay, so we are listening to a Mozart audiobook, which is a narrative story about Mozart with Mozart music in the background while we drive. Okay, so I thought, what are some things that we keep in our car? Because we do car school a lot. So we keep a lot of audiobooks in both of our cars. So the ones we've got in here at the moment are Mozart, which is playing right now. This is Courage and a Clear Mind, The True Adventures of the Ancient Greeks, as narrated by Jim Weiss. Love that. This is Rush Revere and the Presidency. Haven't opened this one yet, but we do listen to a lot of the Rush Revere ones, especially when we were doing Cycle 3. Okay, she wants to take that one. We also have Greek Myths by Jim Weiss in here, and a far more loved and gone through Rush Revere and the American Revolution. Really good. We've got some other Rush Revere ones. I think I bought like a big set after he died.
I think we only listened to the Revolution one though, because it was during that third cycle when we got them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Now you can show me your favorite spot.
Ooh, the cave.
Right there. Yeah. At 6 cents after nightfall, the copperhead snake is on the hunt, but she won't see her prey. She'll sense its body heat.
Okay, so that makes more sense.
Again. Go hunting. Oaks and hickories reach the top of the forest, and their leaves stretch out to soak in the sunlight. The shade.
Even more acorns, wow.
Looks like a profound sense of play. The river otter is such an animal.
We always consider an otter a playful animal because they're
Look at
the
this
supreme
river otter.
aquatic predator.
Where are we going? Yeah, we're gonna go down the stairs. Yeah, this is a cool place, isn't it? You wanna go look? Where are you gonna go? Walk? Yeah. Oh yeah. Things about ducks and birds. Yeah, are those good? Ducks do not make that noise, no. Roar. Not everything goes roar, just dinosaurs and lions, and bears. Okay, a lot of things go roar.
Fine food. And of course, there's lots of things like pizza and candy and things out there. So we'll hopefully find some of those. No pizza or candy. But still, we might find lots of different types of plants, in particular, that we can nibble on. Of course, there are things like mushrooms and things out there as well that people can eat. But Joe,
Yes!
oh, absolutely not. Because there are some that could potentially kill you. So we have to be very, very. Really, the pink one up there, yeah. So anybody know what type of tree that is?
No. Oh, cherry blossom?
Not cherry blossom. Redbud. So this is an eastern redbud tree. And they have kind of some tasty flowers on them. So this is a member of the pea family, even though it's a tree. Hold up 1 second. Don't hold me out. And so they have these little pea-like flowers up here, and they'll end up getting a little pea pod on. Now in redbuds, you can't eat the pea pods, but you can eat flowers and very, very young leaves. Now, usually these trees start blooming like about a month ago, and that's the best time to eat them. Usually the youngest parts of the plants are the best parts to eat, because once they get a little bit older, they get a little bit more chemical defenses in them, which usually gives them sort of a bitter or off-putting taste. When they're very young, they're a little bit easier for us to digest, and they usually don't taste quite as strong. So So what I'll do is I'll pull off a handful of these flowers. And if you would like to try one, when they're fresh, they kind of taste like a sweet lettuce. These ones are getting kind of old.
Where is this?
Something called an invasive species, which means it's not from around here, and it takes over habitat of other plants, and it's also not very good for animals, including things like insects to eat. And insects are the base for a lot of food chains, so it doesn't have a lot of conservation value. It will have some fruits later in the fall, but the fruits are really bad for wildlife. They're really high in sugar, not very high in protein, so kind of like candy for them. Except the wildlife doesn't really even realize that they don't taste like we do, so they don't think of it as being sweet. So it's actually very, very bad for birds. But it's kind of a neat one. And this one, I don't think we have enough good flowers yet. Not a pear tree, although that's a nasty one too. This is called bush honeysuckle. And so this time of year, it gets these little flowers. And inside of the flower, we're not going to eat the flower, but there's some nectar. And you can suck the nectar out of the flower. On cooler days like today, you're not going to get a whole lot. It's not going to be very much. You can kind of squeeze it out and just kind of put it up against your tongue, and you might get a teeny tiny drop and just a small amount of sweetness. So this is a common blue violet. It's one that grows in yards a lot. And you guys can totally forage in yards if you don't have dogs and other animals using the yard, because what do? They poo and they pee on everything. So there are definitely places where you do want to pick and don't want to pick. Here at Runge, the edge of a trail will be a safe spot because we don't allow dogs out here. Ordinarily, if I'm foraging, I don't like to use the edge of the trail because, again, dogs and things like that, and that's where they go to the bathroom. And so when you eat a violet, which first we can identify because it is purple in this case, and it's kind of neat in that if you're trying to identify a violet, like if I have a sunflower, you can cut a sunflower in any direction and fold it over and it matches up. You can only cut a violet straight up and down to fold it over and match it up. So it has a kind of a different type of symmetry there. And when you eat the violets, you're just going to take the flower, just the flower only, and just eat the flower.
Like this part?
And it's one of those that's high in vitamin C. There's some little red berries on this plant here.
I think those are pointed.
And this is called buckbrush. Sometimes they call it coral berries, the other name for it. There's a reason they're still here, right? It's because they don't taste very good. They're not going to kill you. They're not what we call edible, though. They're kind of in that middle that we call inedible. They're here because birds and things will eat them, but they're obviously not their favorite. So it's not a bird's favorite. Is it going to be very delicious for us, probably? Probably not. So we're just going to leave that one.
That sounds like a job for you, Abba. I'm going with the group. Come on, let's go.
Are you going to put these away or are you going to stay and play?
You are part of the group. Bye-bye, Abba.
This is like green apple. It's awesome. Yeah, give it a shot.
Can I have two from me and my mom?
So I'll hand them out here.
Thanks, kid.
Very thoughtful.
Yes.
Delicious? Yeah, it's super.
They're one of the first flowers out there in the spring. Usually starting, usually very early March. But then they have these single leaves coming off of here, and oftentimes they have little speckling on them that kind of look like the skin of a trout. This one doesn't have very much speckling because this is a prairie trout lily versus some of the other trout lily species. You can eat every part of this plant. So you can try the tuber, this little thick root here. You can eat the flowers, which they don't have anymore, and you can also eat the leaves. And so we're mostly going to try the leaves today. So for this one, I'm going to cut some pieces off of this so we can just share just a couple of these versus going out there and killing a bunch of trout lilies because they're one of my favorite flowers. So just hold out your hand. Spring beauties have, these are kind of shaped like this. Again, you can eat lots of different parts of this plant. You can eat flowers, you can eat the leaves. Sometimes they'll have a tuber which broke off, like an actual thicker tuber that you could eat. They have, five petals to their flowers, and they have pink pollen. So when you look at the inside of the flower, you should see a little bit of pink sitting on there. When bees come to pollinate this flower, let's not all touch it because you're about to stick this in your mouth. So the bees will get covered in pink pollen once they come and visit. So we're going to again try the leaves. This one is well past its prime. So we'll see what this one tastes like. Identify greenbrier because it has the spiniest stem of any vine in Missouri, and it will get you and it will get you good. But you can eat the young tendrils, which are these little things that come out the end here that help them kind of hook onto plants as they climb. And you can also eat the very young leaves. But maybe if we find some more, we'll experiment. That one's just kind of popping back out again. So but for that one, we'll leave. And again, if you're picking that one, just be very, very careful because it'll stab you real hard. So there's lots of, you guys like onions and garlic and stuff like that?
No.
Oh, I love it.
I do.
And there's actually lots of wild onions and wild garlic. Now the best way to identify it is it kind of looks grassy. This time of year, they're just starting to get their flower heads, which is what these things are here. But the best way to tell it, identify it, is by using your nose. And you smell, and guess what it smells like?
I don't smell it.
Onion or garlic.
Smell.
What's it called? Is this
This is a wild onion.
okay?
One of, there's several species.
No, you smell.
Because there are some other plants that look similar that again aren't very good for you, but they do not smell like wild onion or wild garlic. We'll smell it in just a second here. So if it smells like wild onion or garlic, it is. If it doesn't, it might be one of those lookalikes. The problem is if you go out and you pull wild onion or garlic, what do your hands smell like?
Onion.
Onion. And then if you grab one of these lookalikes, what's your hands smell like? Onion still. So just be sure that you're pulling that original plant, getting the smell from the plant and not from your hands before you decide to eat it or not. That's a cattail. We're not going to all try that one, but they eat the tubers and the roots especially. You can eat shoots and things like that, but again, the younger shoots are better. Step back, guys. Step back before you fall in. You're not going to be picking and that you do not want to touch even when you're foraging or you're doing anything else. This is poison ivy, yep. So, again, staying where you are, don't come any closer. All of these plants right here are poison ivy. And there's a couple ways that I can identify it. Poison ivy generally grows as a vine, and that vine can go up a tree or it can go across the ground. It does have 3 leaves, which are actually 1 leaf and 3 leaflets, but 3 leaves. We can use those leaves to help us identify them. The middle leaf looks like if you took your hands and you went like this, and there's sometimes like these little things that stick out on either side, and it's symmetrical. So if you fold that leaf in half, it matches up with itself. The 2 side leaves look like if you take your hands and you go like this. Well, lots of times there's a little thing poking down, but usually not one poking up. And those 2 are symmetrical with each other if you fold them across. The stem on that middle leaf is a little bit longer, and the stem on the 2 side leaves are very, very short. Generally, the vine is hairy, and something else to look for. It's not like a grapevine, which has a smooth or like flaky vine. It usually has lots of little tendrils going off to the sides. Some people, when you touch it, nothing bad's going to happen to you. Other people, when you touch it, you're going to have to go to the hospital. Don't find out who you are today. Figure that later. I don't get it currently, and that could change over time. I could get it someday. Let's see that which is a really pretty plant, and it gets these super cool yellow flower clusters really early in the spring, again, usually March. So it's already done flowering, and it'll produce some little berries. But the most edible parts of this are just the twigs, which you can chew on, don't eat, just to get some flavor, and then the leaves. They call it spice bush because they would sometimes use this when they're trying to like flavor some different foods and things like that, and a little bit goes a long ways. It's another one that has a really interesting smell, and that smell is a great way to identify it before you try nibbling on it.
I get a choice. I thought we were the team. Are we ever going to time you promised to give someone?
Nice. Very good. Good. What does Weiss say at the end of a word? No. What does Weiss say at the end of the word? No, Zelly, try. Or we can go up here and we can do this part where we shade half of each shape. Hey, that's what you were started to do before I told you to stop. And then write the fraction part as the numerator. So the part that you shade will be the numerator.
going to make a minor scale. So a minor scale, here is how a major scale sounds.
So it is about 7 o'clock and I'm sitting in my car about to come home from work. After we got home from the field trip, I suited up and went into work for the day. Luckily, I don't have evening appointments today, so I'm getting home a little bit early. Coming home. Did you destroy the living room? I destroyed it.
Corn stalk.
There you
Corn
go.
stalk. Sleep. 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 Or
You have a tummy ache?
yes.
Why do you have a tummy ache?
I ate too many French fries.
Well, that's one reason.
No.
So it's about 8 o'clock. The kids have gone to my friend's house, who takes them once a week so we can have some sanity. I am working on a project for a client on my computer, and my husband is playing piano. And I think that's really where I'm going to cut off the day, because usually, even if the kids were here, we would usually cut off the day around 8 p.m. and start doing bedtime routine stuff. So bedtime routine for the kids is wash your face, wash your hands, go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, brush your hair, put on lotion, and change into PJs, and then we're done. And then my husband reads to them forever. Well, I'm done, and I go to bed. And he reads, well, he used to read Harry Potter. He read Harry Potter for, I think, like a year and a half every night. And now they're reading Terry Pratchett. So they're reading The Weird Sisters, which is an awesome book series. Super good. And then I go to bed. So that's our day. Bye.